I am Frau Blucher.
Hey, it's David Levin, and today we're doing something a little different. Normally I would get into the studio and get started, but today for Pop Goes the Culture, I wanted to get this up as quickly as possible, and I'm doing something very different than what I usually do. We lost another fantastic and beloved actress yesterday, Cloris Leachman, who, as you know, was in TV shows like Mary Tyler Moore Show and Phyllis and great, amazing, what she called perfect movies like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and Young Frankenstein and The Last Picture Show and High Anxiety. Cloris Leachman was one of those actresses whose face was so malleable and had such a great sense of humor and a terrific range. And years ago, I had the privilege of interviewing her. It was on the second to last day of shooting of Malcolm in the Middle. She was playing the grandmother, and she was doing it so hilariously. And we were given maybe 15, 20 minutes to interview her for a documentary series that we were doing. So at the end of a long day, she had been shooting for the majority of the day. It was 11 o'clock at night. She was exhausted. I was exhausted from jet lag. And we were told, you'll get 20 minutes. And we ended up getting an hour with her because she just loved talking. In fact, even when we were done, she was like, let's keep going. Apparently, the day before, she had been interviewed by someone who really had no clue who she was. And her publicist said to me, do you know who she is? I'm like, of course I know who she is. And he said, well, yesterday there was somebody who interviewed her who had no clue who she was. I'm like, believe me, I know who she is. So when she sat down to talk, I decided, okay, as we were warming up, she sat down. I said, can I get you anything? And she's like, no, I'm okay. I said, got a cup of tea? She said, no, thank you. I said, warm milk, perhaps? She started to get a little smile on her face. I said, Ovaltine? And she got a big smile on her face, and we were off to the races. And in fact, about 20 minutes in, when her publicist said, well, Ms. Leachman has to go, she's like, no, I don't. So we went until midnight. We were exhausted, a little punchy. We were both giggling. It was not a typical interview. A lot of it we expected to get cut, but today I wanted to share the entire interview with you, uncut, as it happened, with my fumfers and her asides and bantering. And afterwards, she insisted we take a picture, and when I sat down next to her, she pulled her face close to mine. We really hit it off, and it was one of the most amazing interviews. And as I was watching it put together this video, I suddenly remembered just why it is one of my favorite interviews and how she was just so charming and so disarming and just shared some great memories. And when it was over, we could have gone on for another hour without question, even though it was midnight and we were both completely jet lagged. Unfortunately, the original tapes for this documentary are lost to time. I'm very lucky that we have a DVD copy of it. It is not the best copy, and in fact, it has visual time code and stuff on it, but I felt it was really important to share this with you, despite the fact that it is covered with time code. So I hope you don't mind. It is not the best quality, but I thought it was more important to share this video with you. Also, normally I cut out the boring stuff and the bits between the interesting stories. I thought it was more important to keep everything and all my fumfers and all the banter because she was just so much fun, and I wanted you to see her in all her charming and funny and wonderful glory. Anyway, this is my interview with Cloris Leachman, and she will be very much missed, not just by those who loved her acting, but by those who knew her and loved her. Here's Cloris Leachman.
In everything.
Yeah.
Working,
Me
schmirking.
too. You know what, David?
Working, shirking.
By you here. Thank you. Speak. It's a beautiful picture. Speaking. So, first of all, thank you very much for doing this.
Oh,
I
you're
don't know if Steve told you, but
entirely welcome.
I dropped everything because I wanted to be the one to do the interview with you.
Thank you very much. That's not what I've had recently.
Well,
I've had a person who said, I've never done an interview before, and I said, so how do I feel about, and how did I get the job?
no.
What's
no,
Mary Tyler Moore really like?
Yeah.
Did you have fun with
I
Mel
loved
Brooks?
you as Rhoda. No.
No, I know it is. Everybody said, I loved you on Rhoda. And I was on the first one, and that was it. Did you ever get a fuzzy, something that tickles your nose?
Oh, yeah. You got something fuzzy?
I got a fuzzy.
You need something?
No, it's all right.
Okay. Well, I've been.
But if I do this once in a while,
I'm going to establish a little street cred before I get started with you because I've interviewed a couple of other people that you've worked with, Jay Sandrich
You have.
and Betty White and who else? Dick Van Patten and a whole bunch of people. And
Name
all of
dropper.
them, oh, I have to. But all of them have mentioned you.
Oh, really?
And Dick Van Patten actually went out of his way to talk about Nurse Diesel in High Anxiety, and he talked about some of the. I'll stop in any second now and ask you a question actually, but he talked about some of the small details that you put into each performance to create the characters you create, and every character you create is so different. So I'd like to talk to you about some of them and see where we go and get some of your insights and anecdotes. So what I would love to do is...
So I don't have to do the actor studio then?
This is inside the actor's studio for people with attention deficit disorder.
Or outside the actor studio?
Or outside this.
I was in the first group of the actor studio with Leah Kazan, so
Really?
isn't it odd?
It's
I mean, imagine.
full circle now.
Yeah.
It's full circle. Let's talk about some of your favorite movies, and we'll talk about some of your favorite TV shows. Shall we start with the Academy Award winner?
The Last Picture
The
Show.
Last Picture Show.
Well, you've got a fuzzy in your nose. It's
Do
hard
I?
to
Does
t-
that
if
mean
I
you?
do.
Oh, do you do?
If one did, were one to have a fuzzy, it could be distracting. It's all those feathers I've been wearing.
I understand. Okay, now I'll ask the mundane question. How did that come about?
What?
The Last Picture Show. Was it just as simple as the audition and...
No, I didn't audition. He called and we met, and we met at a reading. He had everyone at his home, to his home, and we sat around this great big dining room table and read the Last Picture Show. But he said at the time, any one of us women could play any of the parts. We are fairly interchangeable with any of those parts. I could have played the waitress. Ellen could have played my part. Anyone. Eileen could have played Ellen's part.
Would you have switched?
We would. Well, Ellen decided she wanted to play the one she did. She didn't want to play this part. I was the lucky one.
Yeah, little did she know that would be the one. How does it feel when you're sitting there?
Oh, that's it. There's that how does it feel question.
I'm ready.
Well, the actor can only say, oh, it was great. What can we say? Oh, it didn't feel so good.
I don't know. You could say I wanted to go to the bathroom the whole time when you were sitting
say
there.
what?
You could say I felt like I needed to go to the bathroom.
Not in Texas. You don't really feel that much. Feel other things.
Well, on location on a shoot like that, I mean the entire cast is there, and you sort of sometimes did a camaraderie develop between the cast, or is...
I've said many times that Ellen and I we met, I believe, in Dallas, flew to Wichita, together, and we never stopped talking in a Texas accent, and both of our marriages each one was going through a difficult period, and we just was talking, it was terrible how we was feeling and what we was saying about it. We never did stop talking in Texas talk. We just it was natural. It was a natural thing that we did. You keep going now. I'm just going to keep going on until you're ready with your next question.
I just make them up as I go along, ma'am. The Mary Tyler Moore Show, incredible piece of work, and Phyllis sort of became this thing. But so you were the first person in the pilot who showed up? Did you have the first line in the pilot? Am I correct?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure not. Like, how could I?
I don't know. It's possible. You walked into you were showing her the apartment, I think. At the very beginning.
Maybe.
Okay.
I remember saying, hi, always, because at that time it seemed as if you better hurry up and say something. Here comes a commercial. And so, hi. They were rewriting, of course, so we got just up to the door and said, hi. It was as fast as that. Throw my script away, open the door, and hi.
Jay Sandrich said that you guys that you shot the pilot twice. Do you
Did
remember
we?
that? Yeah.
I don't
You
remember.
Okay, well, I'll just keep throwing
It
them
wouldn't
at
be
you.
the first thing we shot twice in my life.
Let's talk a little bit about the character Phyllis. How did you approach that character? Was there something?
Well, it was described as a neurotic, but I always felt that there was an expression that fit it very well. Phyllis was the sure, firm touch on the wrong note. And I always thought she wanted to be a perfect person. As I've said, a whore in the bedroom, a chef in the kitchen, a chauffeur in the driving the children, a psychologist. Perfect. And of course she knew which wine always to select for the proper food. You know, Doris Roberts was the the person who had an agency who got jobs for people. And so when the spin-off for Phyllis came from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Doris Roberts was interviewing me, and she's telling me about the job. And it's a very nice job. It's this, that, and it gets a nice salary. And so she gets her bag surreptitiously and leaves and goes and gets my job.
Oh, she was great.
Yeah.
She was great.
And of course I worked with young Frankenstein. You know, I hope you're going to edit this.
I will, absolutely.
I worked with, what's his name, who's the father, in Raymond.
Peter Boyle.
And of course, Peter Boyle was in Young Frankenstein with us. And we'd never imagine that he would be the father on Everybody Loves Raymond. He was a wonderful man.
He was great. He was great. One of the funny things about the Mary Tyler Moore Show was Phyllis's husband, Lars.
Oh, Lars. I remember one time I was talking about our marriage to my Swedish husband, Lars, and the honeymoon. And of course, Phyllis and Mary couldn't care less. They're not interested, and I'm holding them down, holding their interest, holding their attention. And so I draw it out and make it very important. And on our honeymoon night, well, what, Phyllis? Well, Lars said, Phyllis, jag har brusit. What does that mean, Phyllis? Phyllis, I am finished. Isn't that hilarious?
Genius writing.
Yeah, funny.
Genius writing.
Oh.
What? Oh, I'm not going to ask you what was it like working with Mary.
Oh, thank you. It was wonderful. She was wonderful.
Was it? What was the atmosphere like on the set? For the Mary
Easy,
Tyler Moore Show?
fun. Can't wait to get there.
Is there-
Love people. Love the guys. The guys are always there for us, sitting behind the flat, listening and cheering us on. It's great.
Oh, that's a great
And
atmosphere.
Ed, he'd say to me, "You're God's gift to man." I'd, oh, really, Ed? I get all trembly and excited. Oh, boy. And Ted was so darn, he was the mayor of where we live in California, Los Angeles. And my kids would always run into him, and he would be so kind and good and interested. And we were really sad when he died.
Yeah.
Und?
And how did they approach you when they said they wanted to do a spin-off your character? What did they say to you?
Oh, I don't know. I just kind of thought they should. Seemed like the thing to do at the time. And then when Betty came on, I said I take full credit for Betty White being on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, because I said I'm phasing. Well, after the first year, we counted how many times I was heavy in the scripts. And let's say it was, I don't know, a certain number. And so we said, why don't I do those ones where I'm heavy in the script, and then the other times I can do other things. And little did I know one would be the Last Picture Show. I was able to do that because they let me. They were very kind and generous about it. And as Betty came on, I said, why don't you, she's blonde, she'll be the blonde. So as I phase out, she can phase in. Well, I didn't know they were already friends and probably had already thought that was a good idea, but I still take full credit with my generous, loving spirit.
So nice of you. Really very nice of you. Your creative partnership with Mel Brooks over several movies was just amazing.
Well, I told these stories so many times.
Oh, one more time.
Oh gosh. The characters, you know, you don't decide how you're going to play a character. If someone were to say, how are you going to play this, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, and I wouldn't be being facetious. I don't know until I look back. Mm-hmm. Nurse Diesel in
High Anxiety.
Nurse Diesel in High Anxiety, I realized later, was partly Ed Sullivan. You know, I was talking like that, kind of out of the corner of my mouth. But I just didn't want people to recognize me because of my smile or my teeth, which I thought was the most distinguishing feature at the time about me. And it was partly he or him. It was partly he. And Cheryl Crawford, who also started the Actors Studio, who had taught herself to be implacable. She was part Indian, so that's those two people I became, I think, for Nurse Diesel. Oh yes, Dr. Ashley. It was the drapes. The what? The drapes. Dr. Ashley felt the color. There's a great deal to do with the well-being of the emotionally disturbed. Such foolish, silly dialogue.
One of the great scenes in that is where you're placing the who came up with that?
It's a glass top. Well, it was written in. There's a glass top table, and we're having tea and drinks, and we're sitting. We pick up something, and then we set, and the camera's shooting below the table, up through the glass to our faces. And as we say something, we'll take a drink and set it right where the camera is. The camera has to move to somewhere else. We'll do it. We just did it once because we can't plan it really very well. We didn't have time. We were in a hurry.
How much fun was it playing with Harvey Korman?
Oh, totally. Oh, I've done terrible things to him in the movies. I feel so terrible. He was so willing and so darling. We were in Mexico shooting a film, and he was the one person who was so terrified of getting the Mexican heebie-jeebies. What do you call them?
Montezuma's Revenge.
The quick trot, yes. He would only eat cheese and chicken. If that doesn't bind you up, maybe nothing else will. So he was so careful. We were having a wonderful time eating all kinds of things. But, it got him anyway. He's a bit of a hypochondriac who tease him mercilessly.
But what's really amazing is, you watch him with Tim Conway, and he's always cracking
Yeah,
up.
I know. Well, they would try to crack each other. You can see them. You can, well, in Young Frankenstein, Gene Wilder, I was going to shoot him. There was one scene where I actually had a gun down there when he said, "Don't let me out, no matter what you do." And I said, "I'm going to put real bullets in this. I'm going to kill you if you don't stop laughing."
But how could he stop?
Every time I would start to say, I had this candelabra with the candles not lit, and I'd say, stay close again. Stay close again. The staircase can be treacherous. And as I would say, the staircase, he would just crack into two pieces. And so we'd have to do it again. Cut, okay, action. Take finally, all I would do was just this far and he'd be gone. He couldn't help it. It was just crack. It's so silly. I mean, it is. It tickles
It's
you.
hilarious. I recently found out what Blucher meant.
Blucher. Frau Blucher.
Do you know what Blucher means?
Glue. No wonder the horses were... Oh, isn't it fun that we can laugh about that still?
It's amazing.
Still and forever. It's always funny every single time.
I will tell you a quick story
Okay.
about my friend's son, who is 7 years old and watches Young Frankenstein all the time. And we're in a Target a couple of weeks ago, and there was bicycles, because we were looking to buy a bicycle. And he says, I said, where are bicycles? He goes, they're bicycles.
Oh, he did. Did he really?
And I said, why are you talking that way? He goes, oh, I thought you just wanted to. Okay.
Did he really? Well, I have a story for you. My roommate at college had a daughter, a grown-up daughter named Meredith, and married a man. He went to the Gulf War and told me later that they were on ships where the planes took off, and each ship had a bunch of these DVDs, what do you call them in those days?
Well, VHS.
Movies, and they would pass them from ship to ship. Well, they got Young Frankenstein, and they wouldn't give it up, and they were showing it over and over, and everybody was getting pretty mad about it, but they still wouldn't give it up, so they began to know the dialogue. Now they're up in the air flying, and they're using it as code with each other, plane to plane. Isn't that marvelous?
Oh my God. So do you drink Ovaltine?
Oh. Would you like a... Would you like a brandy, perhaps, before we start? No, thank... Don't ever say good night. Good night. You have to play your part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't ever say good night. You have to say
Good night.
Vaut mieux.
No.
Ovaltine. What fell down? Oh, I have it.
Thank you.
The best was that, though, each time he said no, it was like a slap in your face.
I know it. Isn't that funny? Nobody decided to do that. It wasn't directed. I hadn't planned it. It was just the way he gave that to me. The way he would say, no, thank you. It was like a, water in my face. And there one thing that was cut out, oh, so much. He would say, where is the laboratory? I said, the laboratory. And he went, no reason, I'd say, on this, when I was first introducing him to the castle, I'd say, on this ring are the keys to all the rooms in my on this ring are the keys to all the rooms in your castle. That was one. Oh. And then when, all the names here. Igor. When his fiancée came, what's her name?
Madeline Kahn.
Yeah. Madeline Kahn. And who's the guy? Igor.
Oh, Marty Feldman.
Marty. When Madeline Kahn comes to the castle, and Marty Feldman's out there, and they're all out there to greet her, and he gets all excited about her white fur around her neck, and he goes, his mouth's all full of white fur. Well.
What a great. Okay, now I just want to go home and watch the movie. How about the same thing in High Anxiety? I mean, the same sort of taking that character to the nth degree. You.
Well, no, but this story, I've told it so much. I feel bad.
You could tell a new version of it.
Sorry.
You never told me.
Sorry. Well, they left me too long, and I drew a little mustache on just to be silly. I mean, just to entertain myself, really. And I got called out there, so I'm fully dressed, and I said, "How do you want me to play this, Mel?" He said, "Well, And I said, well, I did that. He said, when? I said, Frau Blucher, in Young Frankenstein. He said, well, how do you want to play it? I said, well, I don't know, just not that. I mean, maybe. And so I had padded way up to here, and all of these protuberances were raised as I tried to, I wanted a shorter neck. So more Middle European stock. So as I raised my shoulders to make myself have a short neck, this all raised too. So here I am now, with the wig and the thing and the mustache and the...
Quite sexy.
So when he said, how do you want to play it? I didn't want my teeth to show, so he said, you want to be that crazy? I said, I don't know. He said, well, and we started, and we never thought about it again. So that's how it happened. It happened.
Does Mel Brooks have a way of directing, or is it just sort of as I mean, how would you work with a number of directors? How does he compare to other directors?
Well, of course, we're doing a comedy, and he's hilariously funny. He's extremely bright and intelligent and quick, and full of life. It's great. It's great to have that kind of enthusiasm and commitment and knowledge. He knows what he's doing, and you don't have to know what you're doing. You can engender stuff.
Right.
You can, and everybody, you're at a higher level, and it's not competitive, but it's you play off each other. I mean, you get it from each other. It's infectious.
Right. Steve said earlier to me, Cloris says she's been in 3 perfect movies.
Uh-huh.
The third movie being?
3 classic.
3 classic.
Yeah. Well, The Last Picture Show was a perfect film. Yeah, it's perfect. Young Frankenstein.
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 Thank you.
It was a perfect film. And Butch Cassidy.
Perfect film.
Perfect film. And many other very nice ones that I love very much.
You've been in some wonderful stuff. I'm going to just check my notes for a second.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I don't miss anything really. It's History of the World Part.
History of the World
Part.
Part.
It didn't get the best reviews, but it made me laugh until I cried.
Sometimes Mel's pictures can be almost like sketches. They're complete in themselves in a way. But Young Frankenstein had a through line and a story that was so compelling that all this stuff was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't have quite that important a story, maybe. I don't know, it just... But what was the one, Spaceballs?
Mm-hmm.
It was originally called Jews in Space. But how he spoofs things, the fun he makes. Did you ever see the 12 Chairs that Mel
Yes,
made?
years ago.
I love that one.
Really, really wonderful. And then, of course, the producers after that.
But he's reused a one line 3 times in the 12 Chairs. Dom DeLuise, they're trying to find the jewels in one of the 12 chairs, and Dom DeLuise is this priest who's running across the field with a chair and up the mountain, but the mountain goes straight up. It's like a mountain like that. And he gets to the top of this mountain and he tears the guts out of the chair and there's no jewels. He said, oh God, he said, you're so strict. And then when I am feeding, Harvey Korman comes down the stairs and he shoots his cuffs and he has wingtip shoes and a morning coat, and he comes and sits down. He's in dinner's promptly at 7. Don't be late. Don't be late. Dinner's promptly at 8. Well, he's, and he looks at his watch, and he's a little bit late, and he pulls out his chair, sits down, and puts his napkin over his lap, picks up his spoon, and sees what good fruit cup around, and he has his spoon, and he goes like this, and there's no fruit cup. And he turns to me, and I have a big spoonful of fruit, juicy, and I turn to him. And I lean over with my spoon, and he leans over, and I go. And he says, oh, you're so strict. That's twice.
And he loves it.
Yeah. And the third time I don't remember at this hour.
I understand. How are we doing so far? We good?
Well, you're going to edit this thing strongly.
I'm gonna edit this thing strongly, but I'm having I'm having the time of my life. I hope you're doing all right.
Yes.
So, let's talk, since we're here, let's talk about Malcolm in the Middle and your involvement with that show.
All right.
Okay?
Can we? Sure. We just need her clothing.
Oh.
Ava, can you? There's a.
Do I need any refreshing?
I think you're doing pretty well.
I mean, this
No,
part
that's
flat,
held very well.
flat here?
No, I'll check one more time in the morning. But there's a necklace down there.
I need, is
And
there
there-
a slip?
There's all kinds of stuff. That whole pile.
I need to come in there. Can I
Yeah,
come
let
Yeah.
her in, Paula.
Just want to get Paula, because
Absolutely.
she's done for the night. Thanks, guys. Thank you,
No
Cloris.
problem.
Oh, you're welcome. Very welcome.
Thank you for doing this, by the way. You know as much buttons I have.
My eyes are crossed.
And you look
You
great.
too.
What?
You look great.
Really great.
Thank you.
You do.
You
Not
don't
too
look
much
so
longer,
bad
right?
yourself.
A little tired. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, Paula,
No,
that's,
no,
that's good.
okay. We just finished
All
up,
right.
so I know Paul.
No, that's good.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So, let me know
Speeding.
we're on. Okay. So let's talk about your involvement with Malcolm in the Middle. How did that come about?
How did it come about? I haven't the slightest idea.
Okay.
I don't hear the beginnings of these things.
Well, when you started with them, did you enjoy it? Was it easy
Oh, see,
for
did you enjoy it? And when I say yes, it's already, it's, everybody understands, of course, the answer is yes.
I'm usually so good at this, and I'm so intimidated.
Why? Why are you really?
A little bit. I mean,
Why?
not
What do you-
completely.
what do you-
Just, it's like, well, you meet somebody who you really admire. Like,
Oh, I've made such an ass of myself. Oh, well, you're so wonderful. I just love you. Well, you know, you feel that way, but you can't find words that are fresh and. Oh.
I know. I'm usually good at this, aren't I? Jeez.
Well, it is 1:10 in the morning for you.
Yeah, that's right. For me, it's 2 in the morning, so it's
What time is it?
it's 11 o'clock.
Well, it's 12 for me because I just have been in New Mexico
I
all
was
this
in New
time.
York. So the two of us, we're all jet lagged
Uh-huh.
at this point. Okay, we won't.
And not only that, we're pretty tired.
Yeah, it's been a long day, hasn't it? Well, today was the last day working on. For you, was it the last day, or are you coming back tomorrow?
Tomorrow's the last
Tomorrow's
day.
the last day. All right, I'm not going to ask you how it feels, but describe for our audience what wrapping up a series is like.
Ugh. Well, there's an awful lot, a great deal of signing things. And you have to write how you feel about different people. And I haven't been here that much. They've been here every single day for 7 years. I've maybe done 7 altogether. So, but I've been impressed with it, with everyone. The little boys, well, Justin and Eric are the 2 youngest, but they've been heavy into conversation with each other. We all are waiting to do something before the next shot or something, and they really were interested in each other and seriously concentrating and giving. You just felt such a closeness with. Jane's been a dear, good person with me, generous, and cheerleading, great, good friend. So.
Well, you've watched other series, begin and come to
And
an
end.
and have you been able to sort of, I hate to hesitate to say impart any wisdom, but you're seeing this from a perspective of having done it several times. All of them, this is their first big series, I think, except for Justin. So what have you perceived in terms of their attitudes as the show is coming to an end? Is there
Well, we're
emotion?
working today. We're working, and a lot of signing. It's behind the scenes of books and pictures and notes,
Get a little choked up?
presents. No, not yet.
Yeah.
And there'll be a party Saturday night. The Mary Tyler Moore Show. when they all got together and had a group hug. Wasn't that funny?
It was. Were you were off the show by that point? You weren't there for that?
Yes, well, I was there for that night,
Mhm.
but I wasn't in the group hug. I was right off there with Jim Brooks. He'd laugh, he'd the intake kind of laugh.
You can hear him on the soundtrack.
We were making Spanglish
Mm-hmm.
out in the beautiful, beautiful backyard of a Beverly Hills home. Beautifully dressed for the scene and colorful. I said to Jim, Jim, did you ever think about me at night when we were doing the Mary Tyler Moore show? Did you ever think, lie there and just think about me ever at night? Jim? just to tease him. Well, it was as if I had not said one single word, not uttered the thought. He didn't know what to do. I'll never know the answer. And later he said, "You're dangerous." Because I had to say a few words about him in one evening, you know, publicly, and so at some event. Because you're dangerous. Not a funny question to ask him, though. But of Jim specifically, because he's so darling. He is so darling. I just love him. It's wonderful to feel such closeness and love for people you work with. And I really don't know Jim. I mean, haven't seen him socially much at all. That sort of thing. That's why it's so funny to ask him, Jim?
In the middle of nothing, you know, apropos of nothing.
Of nothing, exactly, apropos of nothing.
I can see him reacting that way.
No, he didn't react. He did nothing.
I know, exactly. You must have been giggling the whole way. The whole
Oh, I
time.
am. I mean,
Inside. It seems like you enjoy what you do tremendously.
tremendously.
One of my favorite Twilight Zones ever.
Oh, Billy Mooney?
Billy Mooney and you.
It's a good thing you did, son. Wish him into the cornfield. You know, we did a later one, 40 years later, literally 40 years later we did. And this time, the 7-year-old, instead of Billy Mooney, was his daughter. She was 7, looks exactly like him with hair.
His real life daughter.
His real life daughter.
Amazing. How do you feel? You know, that episode became a real classic, known as a classic.
Yes.
And now you're coming back and reprising a character.
Or even reprising if you're French.
Or reprising a character that you did, c'est ça. That you did 40 years earlier. How do you approach that? Now I want to know how that felt, because that must have been a very strange experience.
It's eerie. Here's this child who's Billy Mooney with hair, and it's very odd. It's eerie. Oh, the man who started it, Ron Serling. Ron Serling, we flew from New York to LA together once. Not together, we were both in first class flying.
Was there a monster on the wing or anything? Or pretty much okay?
I was looking for one. I talked to him about smoking, though. He was a big smoker. And that was the end of that story.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Tragic. He had a lot of wonderfully written things. Just an amazing writer. Amazing.
Keep going.
Tell me about Billy Mooney
Billy Mooney.
Billy Mooney. Did I say it wrong? Billy Mooney.
It's Mooney.
Okay. What in the first one, because he was this precocious little 5-year-old or 6-year-old.
Uh-huh.
What was it like working with him at that age and then coming back later?
Oh, children are great. They're wonderful. I love to work with children and dogs anytime. Lassie.
Yes. Tell me about working with Lassie.
You want to hear about Lassie?
Yes.
About that?
I want the truth. Give me the real dirt on Lassie.
Well, Lassie would be supposed to go straight down a hill. Big. And then take one, perfect, okay? Well, another take. So this time, he would go, it's a male, would go traversing down, and Oh, no. He was supposed to go that way, I think, and he just goes straight down. That's right. Because he thought it was better. They'd bring Lassie in on a platform with wheels with a rug on it. And he would lie. They would wheel him in. Then we'd do the scene. Then they'd put him back on and wheel him out. Then they'd bring in the stand-in while they lit the next scene. Here comes this. And they plump him up. You know what he's supposed to, right here. And he'd lie down, and they'd plump him back up again. And he didn't understand. Oh. But in the scene, I would say, now, Timmy, it's time for bed. You get to bed right now. Don't forget to bring in your rabbits. No, it's time for bed. You come to bed right now. He said, but Mom, I have to go get my rabbits. Timmy, it's bedtime. He said, but they'll die if I don't get my rabbits. I'd say, well, all right, but hurry up. Now here's the way the scene would look after they shot the whole scene. I'd say, Timmy, time for bed. He'd say, but Mom, I have to get my rabbits. I said, well, it's late, you have to get, he'd say, well, but Mom, they'll die if I don't get them. And I'd say, well, and I'd look at the husband would look at me, I'd look at the dog would look at Timmy would look at the dog would look up at me, I'd look at the husband, he'd look back at me, we'd both look at Timmy, and I would say, well, all right, but hurry up. That's how much differently it was from the way we would shoot it. The dog was the all right, have a great idea. No, remember, Cloris, the name of the show is Lassie. Okay. I developed something called the egg basket take. I would be starting to go somewhere with an egg basket. And I'd have to stop on a dime instead of, if somebody talked to you, you usually don't stop instantly. You wait to see if they're going to live or die, and it isn't urgent until some word catches you. So you start and gracefully turn. So this way, I'd have to stop quickly. So I'd stop and let the egg basket come up as I turned. So it was still in motion. Mom, quick! What is it? See? Instead, Mom, quick! What is it?
Whoops, we lost the
I
microphone
keep
again.
dropping my prop.
That's all right.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Or my other story is, I'd be up washing windows with Bon Ami. Everybody else is squirting, Do you know what Bon Ami is?
Yeah.
It's this, and I'd be up on the sink, and the little boy would come in with a broken leg, and he said, oh, I broke my leg. Well, there's some milk and chocolate cake in the icebox.
Lassie will take you to the hospital.
Or go and tell Uncle so-and-so, he'll fix it. And the father had to be out in the North 40 because the dog had to save the day, so it was all tricky.
No wonder the other kid sent people into the cornfield. I mean, the way kids are treated on TV.
Yeah.
The dog is the smartest one in the room.
That's true.
I don't want to hold you up too much because I know it's been very late, but I just want to double check on my notes, and I don't like looking at my notes when I'm doing an interview.
Right.
But
You're going to edit both of us.
we're going to edit both of us like crazy. Me mostly. They don't show me at all because the kids will be scared. Let's see. We talked about Spanglish. We talked about what am I
Scary
missing,
Movie
Steve?
4 is coming out.
Tell me about that. You're in
April
that?
14th.
Who are you playing in that?
We're spoofing the Grudge, and I'm the catatonic woman. What all they don't do to me in my inability to do anything about it. It's funny.
Little
And I-
eye movement in there. Does she get to use her eyes, or it's just pretty much?
Well, you'll see. Anyway, then I just came back from
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque.
I just came back from Beer Fest. We made it in Albuquerque.
Is that the movie?
Uh-huh. These 7 guys went to Colgate University together, and they were fooling around and being silly and doing little skits. Finally, they'd write them down, and they became shorts, and then they'd film them. And now, this was the fourth movie that they've made, and I have a very interesting part. Let me tell you about that. It was a German accent.
Well, nobody does the accents like you.
Well, it's a bit different. It's a bit. I talk about the throat. You like the muscles of the throat. There's more to it than that. It's like Animal House called Beer Fest in Gothic print. It's like it's an underground Olympics of beer drinking. Don't attempt to do this at home. You'll die. I'm Great Gam Gam in that. And that opens August 25th.
Mm.
Yes.
Well, speaking
In a
of,
theater near you.
how do you know?
Well,
You don't know where I live.
they're everywhere.
Ah, okay. You played Granny in the Beverly Hillbillies movie. After following in the Wonderful Shoes of Irene Ryan.
Yeah.
Did you look to her for inspiration? Or
Yes.
Did you
Oh, but I really didn't watch the show, so it had to be quick. I had to grab it, and then you don't want to imitate somebody. You want to get the spirit of it, and it was fun, great fun.
Is there any story that you regaled your friends with, or your family over the years, or something that you dined out on that's just a moment in your career that just you told me so many good ones. Is there one that sort of stands out for you that you haven't shared with us yet?
Oh, I'm sure many. But what would they be right now? I don't know. I can't think of. Just some things you do. The character has led me. I just know what to do. In the Migrants. Oh, that was a wonderful one. Trying to get my children out of this ghetto. Ronnie Howard and Sissy Spacek were my children. Oh, there was one scene in the Migrants. We're trying to get on the road with a caravan if we lose a day's work. And we're trying to get money to get the kids out and try to get them. Ronnie Howard comes down the highway with a tire to get it on the car, and they're trying to hurry up to catch up with the caravan. And I'm packing up, and there's a beautifully written scene where a teacher comes to the door to give my 9-year-old daughter a little award from school. And it's supposed to be between on either side of a screen door. Well, I've got to get this show on the road. We have to get going. And I was packing up. I'd go out and pack and come in and out and in. And finally, this poor, sweet, good actress called through the screen door to the director, who was outside with the camera, saying, "What shall I do?" And he said, "Follow her." And so she did. She kept trying to tell me about this. And I've got to get in the road. And I throw everybody in the car. We slam the doors. We take off. And she's running after the car to try to give this child a chance at a life. You know it's over for her. And that's the kind of thing. Another later scene, my little 7-year-old daughter, my own little girl, played that. We're coming into the fields early in the morning, and there's a pickup truck down here, kind of a low hill and a rise, and then it comes down this way, and the pickup truck and the director said, Tommy Grice, he said, "This is a 3 scene, meaning 3 people. So when you come down," I said, "I can't, Tommy. I can't, my daughter." Well, we didn't know what to do because there's the scene set up, and you don't want to be difficult at the same time. One of the guys, he picked her up, swung her up on his shoulders, and I saw that she was all right, and I could come down here and talk, and it worked.
Right.
But to have ignored that would have been fine. Nobody would have known it. But to include it, make it an opportunity rather than a problem, and that man helped us greatly to do that. That's the kind of thing. They sent 2 prop men to my house in that show. It's called The Woman. Another one, The Woman Who Willed a Miracle. It was supposed to be an evening show, prime time. And I heard that an ABC exec said, "Oh, who wants to watch a blind kid for 2 hours at night at prime time television?" And so they made it an afternoon special. But we all got Emmys. And it was one of the deepest, affecting experience for me. So, one night, they sent 2 prop men to say, what do you want? And I didn't know I hadn't done it yet. And usually you get there and you see what you need. So she's a real little woman, and she had been a farm woman, and I wanted to show that, but nobody said anything about it. So I said, well, I want the biggest chicken you can find, a capon, and big shears, because I want to use the shears 3 times. One to cut the little boy's hair on camera, one to cut out a dress. This woman made dresses for herself like paper dolls. She'd cut it out like that, put a sash around it, sew up the sides, and go to the dance. So I did that, and I cut up this chicken, like a farm wife. I don't mean like that. I mean like I knew what I was doing. Blah, 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 blah. You edit that out.
I'll let it do. I have one final question for you before
I have one final answer.
I didn't.
I'm sure. But I could give you an answer before you would even ask a question.
Go ahead. The answer is yes.
Yes, wonderful to work with. Enjoyed it greatly.
Fill in the blank. This is a question I've asked many of the people that we've been.
If there were a heaven, what would I say?
That would be
The wrong show.
The characters that you play become real, not just for the viewers, and especially a character like Phyllis, who you played over a number of years. And so you've gone on with your life. Your character is out there somewhere. So flash forward to 2006, and Phyllis Lindstrom is out there living her life, whether it be in San Francisco or Minneapolis. Where do you think Phyllis Lindstrom is today?
I think she's living with her daughter in Seattle.
Okay.
And her daughter, Bess, still calls her Phyllis instead of Mom.
You have grandchildren? She working?
Her grandchildren, she's not working. Bess wishes she would be, I'm sure.
And she.
No, I think the grandchildren just love her very much.
She ever get over her neuroses?
I think they're all very understanding and helpful. The children are probably very helpful. Probably plays with them, and they cook together and do stuff.
Thank you so
My
much.
mother, I better just tell you,
Yeah.
my mother would never get mad at me, or us, my 2 little sisters or me. Only very few times in all of my growing up, out in the country, outside of Des Moines in Iowa. And one time she was sitting on the bathtub just crying. And I said, Mama, what's the matter? She said, I always thought I'd have 3 lovely daughters, and we would just sew and cook and do things together. She said, where have I gone wrong? Isn't that poignant? Doesn't it break your heart? But she never to get mad. It's just, where have I gone wrong? And anytime anything would happen, like one time I flew home from New York in my 20s, and not the 20s, my 20s. And I went to a paint store, and they couldn't decide what color to paint the living room and the sun porch. So I got this dark red, wonderful color, and another light green or something for the sun porch. And we had ladders and sponges and paint and brushes, and we're all rolling in the living room. And my mother's on a ladder with the dark red, beautiful painting, and all of a sudden, of course, the paint falls down, and all over the beautiful rose-colored, dusty rose carpet, carved carpet. And so the expression she always said was, I don't know why I can't have anything nice.
Do we have the same mother?
Mama.
I think we might. I think we have the same mom. 'Cause my mom says the same thing. Why can't we have anything nice?
And if anything, I did anything at all, a little tiny stuff, she said, well, for heaven's sake. She was a little piece on the piano or something. She didn't think I could do it, and I would just do it to press her. Well, for heaven's sake. And that's how I came to be, I would say. Well, for heaven's sake. She never said I was pretty or smart or, well, one time I stayed out all night when I was 17. I was just with some guy. He was in the front seat of a four-door, it was a coupe, a two-door. I was in the rumble seat with terrible hay fever and mosquitoes, and his parents were gone for the night, and he didn't want to be alone, so I stayed all night in the rumble seat, and it was just a hideous affair. When I came home, I thought my mother would be very upset, or my father. Nobody said anything, and I had to go be on the radio show, and every day I had a radio show in Des Moines when I was 17. But that night, I asked my mother what she thought. She said, I thought you were smarter than that. It was such a compliment to me. I didn't know she thought I was smart. And when I was a little girl, she would say, well, you have a mobile face. I didn't even know what mobile meant. It was moving. But, isn't that funny?
A very good face. And for heaven's sake.
It works. It's a face that can look different, I think. Well, I looked in the mirror when I was young and decided I have a long nose, a long neck, a long back, so I'm pretty aristocratic. I'm definitely, no doubt, descended from a noble family, perhaps kings and queens. I was clearly the black sheep, but nevertheless, I could. And in those days, if you play a queen, it's with great. You order people around, and they behave, and you're off with their heads. There wasn't any kind of. I mean, it was. Well, I don't want to say Betty Davis, who would exclaim and proclaim it, but a marvelous actress, but not quite the same kind of acting that they do today. It was. Well, you know what I mean.
Over the top, big.
It wasn't over the top necessarily. But it was very entertaining and
Bold.
Well, in those days they had lessons that you could take of declaiming, and we don't do that today. Nor did I ever have any of those lessons. How now, brown cow?
Okay.
I think I'm being told.
I think I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
What year is it? Okay, yeah.
What year
I
is
think
it?
we're good. I think we're good.
Are we good?
Everything you need?
Is it midnight?
We're getting, we're creeping in.
We're getting
In the
into
garden
I know
tomorrow.
that you've got to be here
Good
tomorrow, Cloris, so.
Thank you so much. This was such a privilege for me. and
You're
such a
going to have to
treat.
edit it down to 5 minutes.
You know, it's fine. It's just fine. Thank you so
Good.
much.
Oh, you're
This
welcome.
was great.